This is the Mershon Drive traffic calming meeting number 2. On behalf of the city of Ann Arbor, I'd just like to thank you all for joining us. This is an opportunity to engage with the neighborhood, with community members. These traffic calming projects just really rely on resident feedback. So I appreciate everyone who is able to participate, and I will encourage as many neighbors as possible to keep participating throughout the process. My name is Christy Thelen. I'll be presenting tonight. The traffic calming team for Mershon Drive is a partnership between the city of Ann Arbor and Wade Trim. Wade Trim is an engineering firm based here in Southeast Michigan, and we've been contracted by the city to assist with their traffic calming projects. This includes design work, project management, hosting public meetings, sending out communications. So from the Wade Trim team we've got Chris Wall, Lori Pollock, and myself. If you see any of our names, our faces, the Wade Trim logo, just during this process, know that we're working on behalf of the city of Ann Arbor. And then naturally with this partnership, we've been working closely with city staff, different departments, different city staff members that we've been coordinating with throughout the project. But specifically, we've been working with Andrea, Chris, and Cyrus. This is our meeting agenda for tonight. Most of tonight's time is just going to be focused on that preliminary plan where we'll review and discuss the devices that we're proposing. And then I'll just run through these pretty quickly because I know we went through them at the first meeting, and I believe both attendees who are on right now were part of that. But just really quickly, technology overview. If you're on a computer, you're going to be able to ask questions and provide feedback throughout the meeting. You can press the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. That'll just let me know you'd like to speak. You can lower your hand with the same button. When you're recognized, you'll be able to unmute yourself and talk. If you'd rather type something out, you can use the Q&A button at the bottom. Chat box is going to pop up. You can type in there, press send to submit. If you want to do it anonymously, you can. Just make sure you check that option. There are options to ask questions and share comments if you're dialing in. I don't see that anyone is on this meeting right now, so I just won't go through that part of the instruction. But throughout the presentation, community feedback will be requested through the polling feature on Zoom. So again, when you're on the computer, or even if you're on the app and a poll is launched, it's just going to automatically pop up for you. I'll be able to control that from my end. After you answer the polling question, just press submit. I'll also be able to close out the poll and just share the results for everyone. Once it's over, you can close the results yourself, or as we move on, I'll clear them out as well. Just note that polling is anonymous during the meeting, but unless you are dialing in by phone. But like I said, I don't see anyone on here who's calling in. Just a test poll here. I'll launch that. So you should be able to see it on your screen. Just asking if you live in the project area. Oh, I'm so sorry. That is the wrong one. Let's try that again. Okay, now I'm going to launch the test poll. So it should show on the screen, do you live in the project area? Our project area is Mershon Drive between South Church Road and Delaware Drive. And so I'll share the results. You should see those there, that we've got 100% of the attendee of the attendees are part of the project area. And I will stop sharing. So that should be gone from your screen now. Lastly, just a couple quick guidelines, Zoom etiquette. Start on time, end on time. This meeting won't be as long as the first one, just because we had so much of that orientation and that introductory material to cover. So this one will, I think we usually plan these meetings to go on until 7:30 at the latest. But I'll be able to cover the information I need to well within that time, and there will be more time for discussion or questions if there are any. But I definitely don't want to take up too much of anyone's time in the evening. Please make sure that you're raising your hand to talk. We'll only have one person speaking at a time. If you are speaking, please move to a quiet area. Try to silence any background noises while speaking. I will apologize in advance if there are any sudden noises from my end. I am currently dog sitting and I am surrounded by three currently sleeping dogs, but they may hopefully not disrupt anything. But if you're speaking, make sure you're speaking loud and clear so everyone can hear you. This meeting is recorded, so anyone who's going back to listen will also appreciate clarity when reviewing the meeting. Everyone's going to get a chance to speak before we have anyone repeating, any repeat speakers. Just be respectful of other ideas and perspectives when we're sharing the floor to speak. No finger pointing. Try to just differentiate between fact and opinion. Lastly, any inappropriate written and/or verbal comment or language, including personal attacks and accusations, will result in that attendee being removed from the meeting. If there's anything that I've missed, anything else we want to add, I'll pause here. You can use the Q&A. You can raise your hand. These meetings are very informal. I will encourage you to engage in conversation if you can by speaking, but yeah, very informal. Please use the Q&A function freely. Please, raise your hand whenever there's anything that comes up that you want to talk about. But moving on. So this is the preliminary plan. This is what was marked in the street a couple weeks ago. The packet that was mailed out to everyone in the neighborhood has the device descriptions that are included in this plan. I'll point out that the main difference is during meeting one, we had 3 speed humps proposed, but after discussion, there was more interest in removing the speed hump near that Delaware Drive intersection, as most people saw speeding issues coming from South Church Road, as that's the more major of the two. So you moved the 3rd device near Delaware Drive. We kept the spacing. We didn't really play around with the spacing too much with the 2 speed humps that you see on the screen here. I might have very briefly gone over it at the first meeting, but speed humps tend to be most effective when they're used in a series, and when you're keeping the spacing within a certain range, like it's not an exact number, like every single speed hump has to be X feet apart. But within a range, we keep in mind when we know that our target speed limit is 25 miles an hour down here. So this was a conversation that I had with the city, one of the city engineers, Cyrus, and we both felt comfortable with just having these 2 speed humps on here, especially as the major concern is that park area. You know, you've got a lot of people on foot going back and forth across the street, especially mid block. So making sure that the calming effect is in that center was the most important. And then this is just a typical slide here showing what you would usually see with a speed hump. You might remember it from the first meeting, but a diagram of a typical speed hump is on the left there. And then there's an example, a photo of an existing speed hump on Wells Street is on the right. And as a refresher, speed humps are typically 12 feet long. I think in recent markups, we've been making sure to march out like 14 feet, I believe. But why is my laser pointer not working? Interesting. Typically 12 feet long. At the most, speed humps are 3 inches high. So there's a parabolic shape, which you can see on the photo on the right, or kind of see on the right. It's parabolic. So in the center there is where you have the maximum height of 3 inches. They extend the full width of the street except for gutter if present. That height is designed for not just safety of vehicles, but also safety of bike usage and bike safety. As long as it's legal, as long as it's permitted, previously permitted, vehicles can park on speed humps, and you can also, if needed, place trash cans on them as well. There's no parking restriction or curb restriction with that. And then speed humps, as I had mentioned earlier, we like to use them in a series. You know, one speed hump isn't going to do too much. It's when you have a series of them when you know to expect that that pattern of having to like maintain a slower speed. So with that, studies have shown speed hump treatments can result in speed reduction, traffic volume reduction, and even crash reduction. And since our plan is currently just those 2 speed humps, that's really the only slide that I wanted to review with the general information. If there's any questions still on speed humps, we can, pause for a moment here. But if I'm remembering, go ahead, John. You've got your hand raised. You can unmute yourself.
Sure. I'm just wondering if there'll be, I know we had some data on traffic speeds, typical traffic speeds now on the street. If there would be a reassessment to see if actually that speed is reduced.
Yeah, yes.
Because, and then maybe consider putting in a third device if the speed still is too high.
Yeah, with the traffic calming program, there is a 1-year follow-up survey included. That's a survey that goes out to, the same project area neighborhood and also includes assessment of the, what the speeds are. So that way, they can look at the data and say things have improved, and also as well as get feedback from everyone, whether it's like, yes, we've noticed something, no, we haven't noticed something, but if there are numbers to, back that up, then you have that information. I don't know off the top of my head what the exact number of completed traffic calming projects is, because I know the program has been around since I want to say like under a couple of different versions, but I think the program's been around since 2014 or 2015, maybe even earlier than that. But what I was told is to date, none of the follow-up surveys have ever come back and resulted in um, devices having to be removed or people unhappy with them. But like you were saying, it will show. Having that follow-up will show if maybe it's not enough.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, so I don't see, it doesn't look like there is any other question or comment on here. So I'm just going to jump into, because that's really the only thing that I wanted to review uh, with you is the preliminary, what the plan looks like, just a refresher of what the device should be doing, or what we're looking for when we're putting the device in. So really the next two slides are just close-ups of each of them, and we'll do the same kind of polling where just see if there's any hesitation or any more questions about the devices for Mershon specifically. I'm hoping that both that everyone on the call has been able to check out the markings in the street and kind of get a sense of how much room they might take up, or where we're thinking about placing them as a reminder. We do have to be aware of the existing utilities on the street. So any of like the manhole covers or hydrants, fire hydrants, those need specific clearance. But I think it works out with what our goals are. Wanting to make sure we have something around the area of the park. But yeah, this is all going to go pretty quickly from here. I'm just gonna launch the poll, and we can sit here and discuss if there's anything else you want to talk about. But this is just asking if you support this first device. This is the speed hump that's right around the open area of the park. You might be able to see in the diagram on the right, but there is a fire hydrant, so that's something that we had to keep in mind, and also with the driveways. But this is nice because if you had houses on both sides, you'd have a lot of staggered driveways, which makes it a little more difficult to um, place devices. So this way, we weren't we weren't too limited in where we could place these, but we've got unanimous support on here, which is great. I feel like we ended the first meeting with a solid plan and support, and I almost think that there's not a huge attendance today because everyone felt comfortable at the last meeting about where we were headed. And usually, if there are questions after, usually there are more questions once the devices are marked out in the street. But I didn't have anyone reach out to me really for this one, so everyone must be feeling okay about it. But this is the other speed hump towards the end, towards South Church Road. Uh, we deliberately don't put speed humps right at the intersection, just because when people, whether they traveled across the road straight or they turned off of the main road on here, they're more likely not to speed until after they get across that intersection. So that's why we want to place it a little farther down. We want to place the speed humps where we're most likely to see the speeding activity. And here, there weren't too many issues with utility, but with like the staggering of driveways, this was an appropriate place to have it, and have the spacing still be somewhat equal, like, you know, between the two intersections and between the other device. But again, it looks like we're in agreement that we support this device. And that was it. That's all the material that, like, all the information that we have to cover for this meeting. Really, I want to make sure that I'm, you know, leaving, and I don't know if anyone may be aware, if anyone needed to join a little late, but really, if there's any other like discussion you want to have on this, like I said, the meeting's recorded, so if there's anything, you know, someone you might feel is important for someone who's listening after the fact, please feel free. But I'll just go over the information on this last one. So this is wrapping up. After this, we're wrapping up our public engagement. What I will do after today is post the presentation and the recording to the project website. I'm usually able to do that within a week or two. We'll also get a summary of the polling, just the attendance list, and if there are any questions that pop up either during or after the meeting that, you know, I wasn't able to give answers to, that will also be in the summary, just for anyone who, when they're reviewing. I'll also finalize the plan. Since I haven't had any feedback that indicates we need to make any further adjustments, we can assume that the final plan is going to look like what we've just shown today. So once that's ready, it'll be posted to the project website, and also the final questionnaire will go out in the mail by June 19th. So in just a little over 2 weeks here, you'll get another mailing will go out to all of the project area addresses, and you'll have the option to complete the poll either by mail, or you'll be able to do it online electronically. You will have a decent amount of time to complete it. The postmark, or the electronic completion, is due July 9th. So you'll have more than a couple weeks there to finish that. I do want to make sure that I clarify that the requirement to move forward from the final questionnaire, or the final poll, of the people who participate in the final poll, more than 50% need to support the plan. So if only 2 people were to fill out that final poll, one is in support, one is not in support, the plan doesn't move forward. It has to be more than 50%. And the final poll is simply, you're going to get a copy of the plan, and it's just going to have like one question on the poll. It's going to ask, do you support the final plan as is? And it's and that's asking if you support it as a whole, where, you know, we're going device by device and kind of picking it apart. That final questionnaire is going to ask you if you support the plan as a whole. If the requirement is met, we will then send this off to the transportation committee and get their support. And then after that, it'll go to city council for approval. Don't have exact dates on that just because of the agenda is a little fluid. So sometimes it gets on there, but it has to be pushed. But looking at sometime in August, having this process completely wrapped up, and then there would be a construction date set, and that's based on available budgeting. I believe the budget, though, I can say that the budget for the 2024-2025 season is filled. So if this gets approved, it would not be constructed this summer for sure. There's a chance that it would be included in the 2025-26 budget, which is June to July, I believe. But you'll get, I'm getting ahead of myself, you'll get more information as it goes to city council. If it, if it goes to city council, if it gets approved, the project website will be updated with that information. And the project website is there. If you haven't visited before, I encourage you to do so. That's where we put the recordings, copies of all the mailings that have gone out. My contact information is on there. If you've got any thoughts, questions that pop up after today, or even after the final plan is published and mailed, and you have questions, please reach out. Let me know. I did see that we had someone join. We had someone join us after we've completed the polling. I can go back to the aerial view just because we have plenty of time. This is a very short meeting, but this is what you see in the street right now: 2 speed humps, one at the park, one towards Scioto Church Road. We had at the end of the last meeting, we were in agreement. There was majority support to at least remove there was originally another speed hump proposed towards Delaware, but there was a large support to remove that we didn't feel like it was necessary. And then talking with the city engineer, we both felt comfortable about just having the 2 devices, that they would still have impact on speed reduction. And also earlier it was brought up by John about how do we know if these devices are working, or if there's still an issue that needs to be addressed. So with the traffic calming program, a 1-year follow-up survey is included. And that also includes some data collection. So that way we can have some numbers as well as resident feedback on the traffic devices if they're installed after at least living with them for at least a year. So there's follow-up. To date, I don't believe there's been any traffic calming program that's had negative feedback, but I don't recall either if there have been any situations where there were still issues that hadn't been addressed, or that maybe needed more traffic calming. But I'll go back to the last slide with the information. And really that's all I needed to cover. I'm going to relaunch the demographic survey if you didn't get a chance to complete it before the meeting started. This is just an anonymous survey that the city uses to help improve their public outreach if you have time to fill that out. Uh, Otherwise, I'll leave the floor open for anyone who wants to add anything or who has questions. But if there's not, then I'll probably close out the meeting within the next 5 minutes. Oh, you're very welcome. This is this is a this is a really easygoing project. It's really helpful to have input, and the dialogue. I know at the first meeting we had some good discussion, and I think because of that, that's why this meeting is so quick, and two, we haven't had a huge influx in attendance because I think everyone was pretty comfortable with where we left off after the first meeting, and without, there weren't any surprises once it got marked in the street. So, but but yes, I appreciate your time. Really appreciate your participation, and just caring and having interest in this project and in the program. So yeah, I really appreciate that. I hope you have a great rest of your evening. I'm going to go ahead and close out the survey, or yeah, go ahead and close out the survey and then end the meeting here. But if you do have any questions or anything else that comes to mind later, please reach out to me, either by phone or by email. But yeah, have a great night, everyone. Take care. Bye.